Okay, this is one of those rare videos where I actually made notes to try and keep me on track, but this isn't my first take. I've already gone on huge tangents. I've got to really try to stay on topic. But the first thing I've got written is today's World Suicide Prevention Day, which I think is a poorly chosen date because this day was chosen in 2003. So that's after September 11 happened. And I just don't think that World Suicide Prevention Day should be the day before September 11 for obvious reasons. But anyway, that aside, um, I'm not doing so well. I gotta admit, like, yes, I'm doing the smiling thing. I think that's sort of a defense thing so that I can present like I'm okay when actually I'm not. Okay, I'm not doing well. Why? And I'm not doing well since yesterday, and the reason is because I think I mentioned previously, my parents went on holiday and then they came back, and things have been okay since then, but I think that honeymoon's over. They don't know. As far as I know, I don't think they know that they've upset me. And I'm not going to tell you what that's about. But yeah, something they did, a couple things they did yesterday really tanked my mood. And so I had a terrible night. I had to message my usual supports. And then I went to bed quite late, but I woke up in the morning and, morning only just, and got messages back from them, and that was helpful. Like, I'm getting better at reaching out to my supports, which is something I've not always been good at doing. But yeah, and then also my godmother called me, which was really helpful, and especially before I had my shower, because often when I have a shower, I think because my brain doesn't have enough to do, it goes into a spiral. So it was good to have some of that chat before I got in so that the shower didn't make things worse and wasn't completely terrible. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not doing so well. And with that in mind, this is where I am going to propose something of a possibly crazy experiment. The words I've written down are to at least investigate dating. In brackets, may not commit, just investigate the idea of dating again. Now, hear me out, because yes, I'm schizoid, and like prone to depression. But like with schizoids are asexual, or most schizoids are asexual. That's true of me. I am not particularly interested in other people. And yes, I've had bad experiences in the past. Like, I have tried dating, didn't go well, wasn't me. But the reason that I'm considering it again, and this is sort of a clinical way to think of it, I guess, is just since I got the schizoid diagnosis last year, I've learned a lot about myself and why I'm like this. And the biggest thing for me is realizing that I actually do have childhood trauma. I have glass child trauma as the sibling of a disabled person. I've got other videos about that. But yeah, recognizing that, it sort of made me wonder if, like, yes, I have schizoid personality disorder and it predisposes me to have this attitude of not wanting to be around people, but is that because of the trauma? And if I heal my trauma, or, sort of deal with aspects of it, is that a way to sort of overcome some of the more debilitating issues with schizoid personality disorder? Because it's not a disorder that really helps you function in the world that we're stuck in. And yeah, like, I've tried so many different things and they haven't worked. So, I don't know. Now, also with schizoid personality disorder, something that I'm thinking that I don't have evidence for or research for, but something that I've got a vibe about is that there might be two main ways that people become schizoid. And in my case, it's the sort of trauma, developmental stuff. Like, I've had some bad experiences as a kid, this sort of slow burn trauma rather than a big dramatic thing. And so, I feel like maybe that's easier to heal from. And I clearly don't have the most severe form of schizoid personality disorder because I have developed this covert presentation, right? So to me, that indicates that even though schizoids are hard to treat, maybe there's some possibility that I can change, because I already have changed gradually over decades. But I think there's another type of schizoid personality disorder that is more influenced by biology and has more links to schizophrenia. It can be pre-morbid to schizophrenia, because, like, has a lot in common with the negative symptoms of schizophrenia, and maybe there's some overlap there. And so I'm not trying to say that this is something that all schizoids should try, or that it's going to work for everyone. I don't even know if it's going to work for me. So just keeping that in mind, I'm thinking this is something to try specifically for the type and presentation of schizoid personality disorder that I have. Okay. Another thing that I'm thinking is like, and this is probably also what's like pushed me to think about it more seriously instead of it just being a floating idea, but clearly the most recent spiral has been triggered by parental behavior, and since I got that diagnosis and since I figured out the glass child trauma stuff, a lot of my depression has had something to do with my parents. I mean, there've been other factors like Centrelink has been a particular stressor for me. But yeah, like in the past, it was more to do with existential stuff and more vague kinds of feelings of not having purpose. But I can kind of see how that all comes back to my relationship with my parents. I hate this because it's like Freud type stuff and things that I was probably told by people in the past but didn't have the insight and maturity to really tackle head on. But yeah, no, if it's being triggered by parental behavior and my relationship with my parents, it makes me wonder, like, I probably do have some kind of unmet social need. Like, what else could it possibly indicate if they're constantly triggering these issues with me? Like, I want my parents to respect me better or know me better or just not screw with me, like, to treat me better, I guess. And perhaps that's part of why I became schizoid in the first place, is because I'm not getting those emotional needs met by them. And I still live in this situation, by the way. I'm not like other schizoids who have escaped and who now live on their own and can deal with stuff. Like, I'm still stuck in this situation. So it's a constant thing for me. I sometimes wonder, like, if I was removed from this situation, would I eventually sort of heal just from not having to be here anymore? Like, does staying here keep me schizoid? I don't know. Because then maybe that's a slightly different issue. But yeah, anyway, I don't know. I just think it's possibly a sign of an unmet social need, and we are a social species. So yeah, that's why I'm sort of trying to challenge my belief, challenge my ingrained attitudes and self-perceptions is the note that I've written. Yeah, I'm just trying to challenge that because, like, living in this sort of asexual, I don't want relationships with anyone, I can't even do friendships, I'm just not interested in people. Living this way hasn't really helped. Like, I mean, there's a lot of things I could change about my life, but there's already a lot of things I've tried as well. And so I'm like, oh. And then, another thing that I've written, okay. So I have another brother, not just the disabled one, another one. And he's, in my perception, escaped this situation because he's in a relationship. Like, he lived with us for ages, never dated. He got lucky and has found a girlfriend who now it seems to be a pretty healthy relationship. So, yeah, like, it just, to me, he doesn't describe it this way, but I feel like he's escaped the situation because she's sort of challenged his like, what do you call it, comfort zone, because he wouldn't have moved out otherwise, and he moved out for her, and they're living together, and they seem pretty happy and well adjusted, and he's actually matured a lot through the process as well. And it just makes me think, like, what's the lesser evil? If I stay here in this situation with my parents, or if I take a risk and maybe tried dating again, maybe found something similar to escape this situation. I don't know. It's just something that I think about. And I realize that these are selfish reasons, but I do wonder if a healthier interpersonal relationship with someone could change me, could help. It's possible. Like, I'm considering the possibility. I'm trying to, like, I'm sort of like, nah, but you kind of have to challenge your beliefs sometimes to work out if they're still legit. You don't want to gaslight yourself, but especially, like, a personality disorder is a mental illness, which means that my mind is not working properly. And this is one of these things that is not socially normal. It's not socially normal to just be disconnected from other people. And I know that logically, even if I don't feel it emotionally. And so the logical part of my brain is like, maybe this is something you should try. Now, I have tried dating in the past, so how is this going to be different? I mean, for one thing, I'm older and I know more about the world, but I'm also more aware of my own motives, like why I'm thinking of it. And so my reasons are a bit different. Like, I had like I've still got kind of like dodgy reasons for trying to be in a relationship, but I had dodgier reasons in the past, I reckon. Also, I'm more aware of my own issues now, whereas in the past I didn't know I was schizoid when I first started dating. And well, when I first, like, in that period, like, I had no idea. I just thought, like, I got depressed sometimes. Whereas now I know that this is a problem and I could explain it to someone that, certain things, certain needs I'm not going to be able to meet, certain things I may do wrong because that's just how I am. I might not be able to show interest in them, and if someone is the right person, they may be more patient with me in that kind of a way. There's stuff like that. And then just like, knowing my own boundaries, red flags, because like if I met my ex now, there's no way we'd even get together. Like it just wouldn't happen because I understand so much more. And like I did learn a lot from that relationship. But yeah, like, so if nothing else though, like, these are some reasons, and you can tell me in the comments if they're crap reasons to try the dating thing again. I mean, am I just bored? I don't know. I've got things going on in my life. But yeah, I think it's mostly to try and escape being stuck with my parents forever. But anyway, if nothing else, what if I just did it for science? Because I know, like, schizoids are really hard to treat. We don't really come forward for treatment that much. We don't come forward to be studied that much. So how can they figure things out for us? I'm aware that I am on the milder scale. I used to be more overtly schizoid, like more severely schizoid. But over time, I've worked up to a covert presentation. I've learned to act normal, even if I don't always feel things. I've learned not to, like, be as, like, I used to be a lot more abrasive in the way that I questioned things. Like, now I'm sort of like, okay, I know how to play the role kind of thing. So given that I am in that position where I'm milder, like, I still fit all the categories, but milder than a lot of people, and also I can act like this way. Like, what if I sort of put myself forward as a bit of a schizoid guinea pig, schizoid dating? I can see how I would go and report back. Now, that's not to say that my experience is going to be relevant to all schizoids, but it could be interesting for science. But yeah, I still don't know if I'm going to do it. But I was looking up articles to, like, about why normal people think that you should date. It was a little bit hard to find things because some of them are just like, why should you date a specific person? Or why should you as a married couple keep going on date nights? And I'm like, these aren't relevant to me. But I found some articles that were a bit more like what I'm looking for. First one actually turned out to not be so great, but there were a couple points that were relevant. So the article, I'll link these in the description, I guess, but 8 great reasons to date. Okay, 8, I like the number 8, but we would like to emphasize 8 specific reasons why dating can be a positive experience in your life to help you navigate the waters of maturity and maybe someday even marriage. Now, marriage, good luck. But anyway, so their first point, dating can be fun. That's not why I'm doing it. But second point, they said dating is a big part in the socialization process. And if schizoids aren't socializing enough, I mean, maybe that's a way to sort of get me, like, and I guess dating is a bit more structured in terms of socializing. Like, I don't know, maybe it's a way to help me figure out socializing, because otherwise the only way that I do it is like in a band situation. And yes, I'm working on band stuff now, but it's early days, and I go to a gig and once I get off stage, like before I go on stage, I'm quite nervous. Once I get off stage, I'm full of adrenaline and I don't even know what's going on. So it's not really like a way to socialize that I actually build any connections. So maybe, yeah, okay, big part in the socialization process. It says, in other words, dating establishes social confidence, helps people learn social skills like manners, consideration for others, cooperation, and conversation. Probably good things to work on. I mean, I'm fine with some of that stuff already, but maybe in a more detailed way, I guess that's what I'm saying. 3, dating helps personality development. And if I have a personality disorder, maybe I do need to develop it in a healthier way. Personal identity is developed through relationships with other people. Yeah, true, because none of us live in a vacuum. The key is successful relationships. When a dating experience is successful, it helps to build our personality. And like, I know that there's this belief that personalities are very stuck and rigid and you can't change them, but there's more evidence that actually that's not the case. We do change over time, and you can have some influence over changing your own personality if you work at it. So, hey, that's another point. That's not terrible. For dating allows people to try out gender roles. That's not relevant to me. 5 is where this article really lost me, because they say, like, dating involves learning about intimacy and serves as an opportunity to establish a unique, meaningful relationship with a person of the opposite sex. That's fine, but then in the elaboration, they said, God created us to need interpersonal relationships, and then they go on about Genesis. And so, yeah, their points after that, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, mate. But they did, even though it turned out, like, I didn't realize it was some Christian network, because I just went through Google, but even though they have all that religious bullshit, the points that it's part of the socialization process helps personality development. Those are the 2 main points that I thought were most relevant, particularly to my case. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. Because, yeah, we are a social species, and, like, the only reason we communicate, like, I have words at all, is because we evolved to connect with other people. Why else would I need the ability to speak? And, like, I know I'm talking to a webcam right now, but whoever's watching, like, that's what communication is for, and, like, you're watching me, another human, like, even though this is very disconnected, it's still kind of a social interaction. So, I can pretend it's not because I'm talking to a webcam, but ultimately that's what it is. I did find a better article, though. I think this one's written by a dude, but that's fine because I have a lot of dude ways of thinking anyway. I thought this one was better. So, 11 reasons why dating is so important. So we've moved on from 8 to 11. I won't read... I'll read all the points, but I won't read, like, the elaboration for everything. I'll just read the bits that I thought were most compelling, as I did with the other one, I guess. But so 1, dating lets you discover who you are. And I'm someone who doesn't have a strong sense of self a lot of the time, so that got me interested. The elaboration, dating is so important because it lets you discover who you are. In fact, even when it's unsatisfying, dating is clarifying because it shows you so much more about yourself. It reveals what you want, how much discipline you have, how fake you're willing to be, and how committed you are in staying true to yourself. Dating is a blank canvas in many ways. These days, most go about it by downloading apps, signing up for websites, and flipping through available people. But you have no obligation to do this. You can also ask out your coworker at work or see if the sparks fly between you and a friend. Now, that last advice, not relevant because I'm not currently working and I don't really have that many friends. I have friends, but not, it's more like acquaintances, maybe. Like, I'm not close to people. I've got one girl who I hang out with of my own free will. She's got a boyfriend. There's nothing between us in that sense, so that's bad advice. But the rest of it, like, the thing about discovering who you are, and the point about even when it's unsatisfying, it can be clarifying because it shows you more about yourself. And I have to say, when I did date, like, for example, my ex, even though that went terribly, I now know a lot more about what I don't want in interpersonal relationships. And also, he was a really paranoid dude, so it did teach me about how other people think and some of the bullshit that other people do, because I was very naive. And then, like, with the second guy I was in a relationship with, I think one of the things that frustrated me the most was that he was not really good with managing money, and I am someone who gets financially anxious. And then there were a few other things in that relationship. He was not so bad, though. Like, he's the only one that I kept any kind of contact with, although I'm constantly breaking people's hearts, so maybe that's a bit horrible of me. But the last guy, yeah, there's some other stuff there. Each time I did kind of, even though things didn't end well, and I broke it off with them all, I did learn things about myself. So that is a point. Like, what do I like? What do I not like? I mean, one of them was that I don't like dating, and I'm challenging that now, but I opened the wrong thing. That is a good point. So I'll give you that one. Number 2, dating is what you make of it. Whatever. 3, dating shows you the value of quality over quantity. Now that depends on what context, but I guess in the dating context, sure, whatever. Dating gives you a way to work on communication, which I think the other one said something about that. But and like I don't really have problems with communication so much. Because like I'm doing it now, and I know other schizoids struggle with that, will tend to talk in a monotone if they talk at all. But yeah, I guess like having practice, because most of my practice is to a webcam. Having practice with face-to-face stuff, probably not a bad thing for me. It provides an opportunity to become a more romantic person. Don't give a crap about that. Dating brings out your best and worst. So most of this part's not relevant to me because he says how he has issues with rejection and so on. But the final bit says, I also think I've become more confident about showing how I feel, speaking the truth about what I feel and believe, and being more decisive. And these are definite problems for schizoids. Like showing how I feel, and yeah, like speaking the truth about what I feel and believe, and being more decisive. Like those are problems. And so, yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not sure I would describe that as best and worst, but oh yeah, like just sort of, because like I think that kind of is a different point, but yeah, one of the things that I struggle with is sort of saying, hey, this isn't cool. Like I will avoid conflict, and just not communicate in certain situations. I just sort of walk away, or stew, or occasionally say I'll do things that I won't do. 7, dating gets you offline for a while. I probably should get offline more than I do. 8, dating teaches you how to respect yourself. So I'll read this one. Going on a lot of unsatisfying dates showed me how to be more selective and also how to respect myself. I developed more patience and became a better listener, but I also learned to respect my own limits. In some cases, that meant ceasing contact with someone who'd stood me up for a date. In other situations, it just involved being honest that I wasn't into a girl. Dating teaches you to be more honest and respectful of yourself and your boundaries, especially when you try to overstep them and end up getting burnt. I feel like I've already had that experience, particularly with my ex. And also with like finding bands, because I've done a lot of work to prepare for auditions and so on, and then like you tell people you're ready and they just don't respond and leave your messages on read or disappear. I've had that happen so many times. It's like I've often thought that finding a band was a lot like dating, except that you're trying to find multiple people, which is just like, oh my god. But yeah, so like I guess there's sort of a bit of an overlap there. I mean, being in a band is also social, but yeah, like, um, but I think, I just said that sometimes I agree to things that I don't actually want to do. And that is part of this thing of like saying, no, actually, I don't want to do that. Like standing up and saying, hey, I'm not into this. Just like even for benign stuff, I'm not even talking about the relationship. For benign stuff, that's important. Being able to say those things instead of being passive. I think a lot of schizoids can be quite passive because you just don't want to stir up shit. Like stirring up shit just causes more social bullshit, and who can be bothered. So yeah, like I guess that's a thing to practice as well. 9, dating is sometimes a lot of fun. Oh my god, normal people and they're fun. Dating gets you more comfortable with conflict. Oh, that one actually is probably what I'm talking about, like conflict, because especially like with my parents, I'll often just shut down. Now, the stuff that he's written was kind of not exactly relevant to me, but the general idea, that dating gets you more comfortable with conflict, like I can kind of see that. Like you want it to be in a healthy way, you don't want it to be in an abusive way, but yeah, okay, sure. And I don't know that I'll be ever able be able. Sorry, it's past 11 p.m. and I'm a bit tired, and I like especially because I had a bad night and have been feeling shit today as well. Sorry, Hopi, I didn't mean to wake you, poor baby. Um, oh no, poor thing, I woke him up with that. I'm sorry, Hopi. He's been really good for me. Yeah, I know. Why date people when you can just have a puppy? Um, yeah, more comfortable with conflict. So like I don't know that I'll ever be able to say certain things to my parents. Um, but just like in general, it's a good thing in your life to be able to stand up for yourself and not just be sort of passive and or just withdraw from situations. Um, it's healthy to learn that kind of stuff. Um, not sure what he's doing. Anyway, yes. Ah, oh, sorry. I just like saying that stuff about my parents. Like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they'll just never understand, and I've really got to like accept that because it does upset me, and I guess some part of me is still hoping for something with them that is just never going to happen. Anyway, 11, the last point. Dating makes you more sociable, which is definitely something schizoids not good at, don't want in particular, but yeah. Dating gets you out into the big wide world, talking to other people. That in itself is a very good thing, especially with so many temptations to just wrap ourselves up in an internet echo chamber or on social media and avoid meeting somebody new. Getting out there and taking a chance is a brave act, especially these days. So even normal people are struggling with this. You're putting yourself out there, testing the waters, and being a genuine person. That deserves recognition, and it's worth it. I still don't know if I'm going to do it, but I guess I'll find out if it's worth it. And then they just end on this note. To date or not to date, that's the question. Dating can be really frustrating, but it can also be rewarding. In deciding your approach to dating, remember that it's all what you make of it. Be selective, absolutely, but also try to retain an open mind about the experiences that come your way, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, trying to have an open mind, especially because personality disorders are all about being stuck in unhealthy patterns, and so maybe I need to challenge that. Like, I'm sort of open to the possibility that I've been, like if schizoid is a defense mechanism, and I can see why, because my relationship with my parents is just not what child me needed, and apparently not what adult me needed. Like, did I even survive childhood? Did I make it to adulthood? I'm not a functioning adult, so maybe I didn't. Anyway, okay, so that's like some of the arguments for trying it again and some of those issues. I know that's taken us a long time, so I'll try to go a bit faster in the next bit. But so, if I could decide to go further than just research and theorizing about all this stuff, and what if I do try and do the dating thing? Okay, I'm thinking online. I know there's things like speed dating and stuff, but then I'd have to actually go somewhere and meet people, and I think that's too much too fast. Like, if I was going to give this a go, I think sort of like easing in with the online stuff is the way to go. In that case, since I know nothing about the dating landscape and how that's done, what apps or websites should I try? I've looked up some, I've read a bit about some, but I'm sort of like, it's like people have mixed reviews, and apparently there's a lot of scammers, and I don't know what's good, because some of the reviews that are older seem very positive, but then you'll find out later that the company did some weird monetization thing and basically broke their own app and made it borderline useless. So I'm not up to date with any of that stuff, could use some recommendations. I know I'm asking an audience of a lot of social outcasts, and a lot of us aren't interested in this stuff, but if there's someone who does know something, chuck it in the comments. That would be interesting. Now, the only one that I have tried is RSVP, and I will not try them again. I went on RSVP because I watched like one of those TED Talks. It was probably a TEDx talk rather than a real TED Talk, but that was before I had figured out that TED Talks are just a bunch of wanky bullshit that are all done in this inspirational format that's actually quite meaningless. But in this one, there was this lady who's like kind of mathsy, and I'm kind of mathsy. Maths was my best subject in school. And she had come up with some kind of formula for herself to work out what's the best match, and like, would take down notes about all these guys and assign them points. After like going on some bad dates, she's like, no, I'm going to do this system. And I just found it so amusing at the time. I know that sounds weird, but I'm weird, and the math stuff, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds... So that's how I ended up on RSVP. This was also after my ex, but and I think also after the second guy, but before I met the third guy. So I was still in that period, and I was also on antidepressants, which does kind of change your brain a bit, and I was sort of like all over the place. It's a very confusing time. But yeah, I was still in that period of, thinking maybe this is a thing I should be doing before I had sort of settled back and withdrawn back into the schizoid default, and, deep depression and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, so I tried RSVP after watching that TED talk, and mostly took screenshots of some of the funnier profiles, because there are some guys on there who are just like one of them also was just literally asking for marriage for immigration, and I'm like, I appreciate your honesty, but maybe not how you want to phrase your profile. And then there were just some really weird things. I have screenshots. I didn't queue them up to put them on here, but one day I'll show you. Or maybe I'll just post them to Patreon. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right platform for it. Anyway, no, the thing about RSVP, I did meet a few guys from there. It was always awkward. There was only one guy I met twice, and the second time was just worse. Like, the first time was okay because we just like went to a restaurant and it was fine. But then in between that, it turned out he was one of these stock market nerds, and he'd built his own stock market game and tried to get me to play it with him, except we were the only two players. And so I just did one thing, and then he exploited the whole thing and was like, oh, I'm winning. And I'm like, I don't even know how this program works. Like, what the fuck is happening here? So he was like just really deep into that stuff, and I was like, and then we went ice skating, and that was weird too. And he was actually really good at ice skating, and so just like took off. We had an almost empty rink to ourselves, and he kind of just took off, and I'm like, okay then. And yeah, trying to talk was super awkward. So that's the only one I went on to. Do you call them dates then? We met up twice. I guess you would call them dates. Sorry, I'm not up with the lingo. Yeah, and then there were like some guys who just sort of afterwards are like really silent, and then there are other ones who just turned out to be kind of gross. And then there was the guy who I told him, look, not into you in that way, but we can hang out if you want, because I wanted to go to this T-Rex exhibition. And I'm like, we could go as friends, and he seemed cool with that, so cool. We met up. He turned out to be a lot taller than I was expecting. I turned up in my dragon onesie. And then I like to read all the panels, but also he gave me super awkward vibes. So by reading all the panels, I could avoid him. And yeah, the T-Rex exhibition was really interesting, really good. But he was this annoying sort of pest hovering and trying to get through really fast. And that's where my T-Rex t-shirt comes from. I think I might have also pressed a coin, but I don't remember where I put it. And then, yeah, sort of parted after that. And it turns out he had thought of it as a date, even though I'd made it very clear that it wasn't. Threw a bit of a tantrum, tried to tell me to throw out my t-shirt that I had bought with my own money. What the fuck, mate? I'm pretty sure I've told this story before. And then started stalking me, started sending me like these text messages, including ones that were pretending he was on my street. He didn't know where I lived. He'd pretend he was on my street, messaging one of his friends some threatening stuff. And like, it got to a point where I was taking photos. This is on my old phone, so there were no screenshots on that. I was taking photos of the messages and sort of putting it together in a file to eventually take to the cops. And at some point, like, I replied to him saying, hey, if you keep doing this, I am going to report you to the cops. I have your phone number and all this kind of stuff. Like, they'll find you. And that's when he stopped. Although he did try and find me on Facebook many years later. I think I mentioned that in one of my shorts. But yeah, it was just like terrible. And when I reported, so long story to get to the part where I reported him to RSVP, because after I blocked him, I think there was a block, after I'd like deleted him or blocked him, he made a second profile to come and harass me again. And so I pointed that out and reported him. And then they banned me for inappropriate username. And I don't know if RSVP is even still a thing, but at the time, like, when you signed up, you had to get your photo approved by them. So I couldn't have any of my weird photos. I had to have a normal-looking photo. So they saw my photos. Presumably they'd see my username at the same time, but it's only when I reported being stalked and harassed that they said inappropriate username and banned me. They didn't even give me a chance to change the username or suspend me or anything. They just banned me. And so I'm like, well, fuck you. I'm not going back there. Like, if that's their attitude to a female being harassed, I'm not cool with that. that is really kind of toxic from them. Never mind him, they were toxic. Like, I don't know what they did with his account, but I didn't like the way they treated me, so I will never go back. I mean, I was never going to go back to any of this shit anyway. But yeah, so that's my story about RSVP and why I hate them. Okay, so apart from RSVP, what apps and websites should I try? I'm aware that I should avoid certain ones like Tinder because that's just for like hookups and casual stuff. I'm talking about like things where I'm more likely to meet those goals of having healthy interactions with people, to challenge the ingrained beliefs that are probably a result of my poor relationship with my parents, who I know care about me but have no clue how to show it. They're not emotionally intelligent people, didn't give me what I needed. To this day, still prioritize my little brother over my needs, and are just oblivious to the things I go through. Like, they don't even know that they don't even know that I'm upset because I'm that good at hiding it. They don't know that I've sat around with the whole like, oh shit, it's World Suicide Prevention Day, and here I am having to deal with that issue in my head myself and distract myself. Like, maybe this whole thing, this whole exercise of looking up dating stuff, maybe that's just me trying to distract myself from not wanting to be here. But anyway, yeah, so it needs to be one of those apps or websites that encourages more meaningful connections. It can't be one of those hookup ones. So that's one parameter. Also, like, once I do find a platform or more than one platform that I want to try, what photos should I upload and what information should I give them? I know I've got a lot of nice photos, but I should probably show them that mostly I'm a slob. You can have a look at my Instagram. All these links are in the description. You can have a look at my Instagram and the public stuff on my Facebook. I've got I've got my Facebook artist page, and I've also got my personal page, and if you find one, you'll probably find the other. So you can stalk me for a bit. Maybe in the comments leave me a link to like which photos of mine you think I should put, and what do I even like write down, what do I tell people, because I don't want to be dishonest. Like, I'm going to be like, hey, I'm a damaged person. I am currently unemployed. Like, I gotta tell people that. I'm not gonna be someone who's dishonest and pretend that I'm something I'm not. And like, you know, even saying something like I'm a musician, like, yes, I'm a musician, but I'm kind of not doing a huge amount. Like, I'm finally getting a band together, but I've spent a lot of time on my butt doing nothing as well. Like, I have serious issues. So, but like, you know, how do I frame that in a good way? And like, what other things? I don't even remember all the things I do. Like, I keep forgetting that I do bonsai until I did the live stream. I'm like, oh yeah, shit, I gotta do that. Like, I forget who I am. So yeah, some reminders, especially from those of you who've watched me for longer and know a bit more about me. Like, what should I even tell people? I have no idea how to go about this, basically. So I am asking viewers for advice, because you watch my life, you would know me probably better than my parents at this point, because what do they give a shit? I don't mean to shit on them all the time, because I know that they at least care about the idea of me, but you know, they're just not good for me to be around, I think, because they do set off all those issues for me a lot. Anyway, the other question, like, because I'm asexual, I'm not really attracted to anyone. So do I just stick to men because that's what I've dated in the past? And so, you know, like, I already know what guys are like in that context. I already have some experience with it. And also, I think I find males a little bit more relatable than females, because I do have some more male interests and like male ways of behaving in certain, like, I don't know, and males tend to be less, like, women can be kind of needy, and I'm like, could I handle that? I don't know. And like, yeah, and also, but I guess, like, with the thing with women though, like, this is what I've seen with my brother, like, with girls, if they do have good, they're more likely to have good emotional intelligence compared to guys. Like, I found this in bands with dudes. I had one band with dudes work fine, my first real band, but then later, like the one I joined just before lockdown happened, they did some bullshit behind my back that I don't think they realized was not how you should handle a situation like that. I think they were just socially dumb. I don't think they were intentionally trying to stab me in the back, but that's what they did. And so guys can be emotionally unintelligent. So that's why I'm like, oh, if I dated a chick, would that experience be better? But then, like, the problem also, like, maybe dated isn't the right word. Maybe it's just like having interactions with them on the app. I may never meet anyone in person because, yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, if I write on the profile, like, I would be inclined to say only men, but should I open it up and just see what happens? Because I'm not particularly interested in anyone. I know that the standard would be to go for just guys, but I'm kind of open to the idea that since I'm not attracted to anyone, why should I limit it? That's just an interesting question. As someone who is probably not getting into this for the right reasons. So what do you think? Should I just stick to the men, or should I add the women in, or should I avoid men? I don't know. I have no particular opinion. Yeah. Okay, and then if I do it, I'm probably not going to give you a huge amount of updates just because, like, it is kind of a more personal thing, and especially if, like, if I do end up talking to people, it's probably not right to share a lot of stuff about that. So maybe I could give you vague updates, updates on things that have gone wrong, or like the general experience, but I'm not going to give you any specifics. I've sort of like, would I update you in video form? Depends on what happens. Maybe I would just post some things in Patreon, maybe as free posts. So if you want to join my cult as a free member, that's a thing. But yeah, I might not do it at all because, like, I have been in 3 relationships and also, like, been on some dates, and, like, it's quite time consuming having to deal with other people, and I've got other things that I could be doing. I mean, I realize I spend a lot of time just watching YouTube and playing Neopets and sort of zoning out, but, like, I would probably still do that, plus having to deal with people. I'm not sure that I could be bothered, and it's not really me, and so maybe it's just an interesting theoretical, so I'm still weighing up, and that's like, sort of the whole thing about, how did I describe it? At least investigate dating. I might not do it. It's just a theoretical. I should probably talk to my psychologist on Friday, be like, hey, I have this wild idea, and it's probably all for the wrong reasons, but is this something I should do? Because, like, the psychologist who screwed me up the most, who I wrote in my asexuality EP on Bandcamp, there's a song called The Psychologist, and she pushed me into relationships and was all like, are you sure you're not just gay, when I said I was asexual and shit like that, and pressured me to stay in a toxic relationship and all that kind of stuff. And so there is that kind of baggage, but I trust my current psychologist a lot better because she hasn't pushed me into stuff. And so I feel like if I ask her opinion, like, is this something that as a schizoid with these particular issues, is this something that's worth me trying? I feel like I'll get a more honest, relevant answer. So, I might raise that with her. But it's, it's interesting to think about one way or another. Now, I'm to wrap this up, because I know it's a long video with a lot of stuff going on, and it could come to nothing, because I know I often come up with ideas that never go anywhere. For example, like teaching metal vocals. I was super confident that I was going to do that a few months back, and then I've just not done anything. So I often come up with these bright ideas and lose interest. I think a lot of schizoids have said to me that they go through hobbies and lose interest. Like, we try a lot of stuff hoping to cure the anhedonia that we suffer from, but because of the anhedonia and the lack of reward we get from trying things, we kind of just get bored quickly and try and move on to the next thing, try another thing for novelty, and then get bored by that as well, because just nothing works on the anhedonia. But I guess we still, some of us at least, still have some hope that we'll find something. So this could just be one of those things. But I'm going to leave you with something a bit more amusing, because I asked a friend, that I asked that one friend that I hang out with of my own free will for no particular reason, like the only friend who I can hang out with for no reason, not having to organize a specific exhibition, or like we can just hang out. Okay. Her advice, initially her first bit of advice was to say that men are good for carrying shopping, because we're trying to organize, there's this interesting event that we are trying to organize to go for. Her boyfriend's probably going to come, and she mentioned that they're good for carrying shopping. But she also said to make sure to find someone who cooks. And then I'm like, haha, I'm going to add that to the end of my vlog, that my friend said this. Right. And then she's like, oh, I can give you a list of stuff. So her list of reasons to date, or like what to look for in dating: find someone who'll cook, clean, carry shopping, drive, buy you goth clothes and shoes, fix things, build things, do groceries, make you laugh, listen to you talk about stuff that is of no interest to them, pat the doggy, and buy you a house. And I just like, yeah, all right. I mean, a lot of this stuff, like the stuff about carrying shopping in particular, and like fix things and build things, means probably I should go for the guys, I reckon. But like maybe there's a chick out there who can do all that. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of hilarious to leave you on that kind of stuff. Anyway, so this could all be just bullshit ideas that I'm thinking of on World Suicide Prevention Day to distract myself from my own depression spiral. But it's kind of amusing and potentially interesting. I can see logical potential. I'm just not sure that I'll actually do it, But, it could be an interesting thing for discussion if you want to add some comments. I don't know. So stuff and things, that's the latest bullshit on my mind. And I'll leave it with that. And see you in the next bullshit I come up with. Oh my god. My dog freaked me out. He's dreaming and he just made a funny noise. Oh, he's so cute. Anyway, catch you later.